Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Here's a question for you. If you have a dog, think about this for a moment. Is your dog an extrovert or an introvert? It actually means a lot in terms of their stress level and all of that. Even the psychology. What are they thinking? What's going on there? We're going to talk with somebody who knows a lot about this, the connection between animals and humans and all of that. And she is the person behind the CEO and founder of the Human Animal Connection. She's back with us. Genie Joseph is on the program. Hi, Genie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very well. And very intrigued about this because as soon as I knew that we were going to talk about whether your dog is an extrovert or an introvert, right away I'm thinking about my dog.
Yeah.
And I think he would be an extrovert, but
Okay.
I'm actually not sure. I don't know.
Right. Well, first of all, what's his name? So we can give him a name.
His name is Tanner.
Tanner. Okay. Great. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're thinking about it because it's important for people to realize that every dog is an individual, just like every human being that you know is an individual. And you have family members that are introverts and family members that are extroverts and coworkers that are the same. And
Sure.
It really helps to understand the unique nature of the beings that share your life. So to begin with, well, do you know the difference? Like when we talk about humans being an introvert or extrovert, do you know the definition of that or?
I don't know the exact definition, but an extrovert is somebody who is outgoing, likes to be around people. An introvert is more to themselves. They may spend more time at home. They just don't seek out social settings so much. Would that be?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, but
Okay.
where it becomes really relevant is when you think about stress. So like on an ideal day, an introvert can show some extroverted behavior and an extrovert can show some introverted behavior. But when a person is stressed, that's when it's really important to understand what the nature is of your sort of core sort of general nature. So for example, introverts, when they're stressed, they really need some alone time. So if you have a friend or a loved one who's an introvert and something bad happened, maybe they don't want to talk. Maybe they need to go take a walk or take a shower or take a run or do some solo exercise. They need to be internal and process that stress internally for the most part. I mean, these are not absolute rules. It's just like a place to start the conversation. And an extrovert is when they're stressed, they want to go out. They want to go to the bar or the party or call somebody or be with people or meet new people or have new experiences or more new to take their mind off of trouble. They'll talk about sports. They'll talk about anything as long as they're talking. You know what I mean? So it's really important to understand that on a human side. So let me just ask you, Steve, where would you say, and you can be on the spectrum. So where would you say you fall? Do you fall in the middle? Do you fall on the one end or the other? Where do you fall?
I would say I'm more to the extrovert side, but not as far as people may think. I would say if it's center, I'm like 75% around there, where this is introvert way back, very, very introverted would be like 0%, and very extroverted would be 100%. I'd say about 75%. How about you?
Yeah, so I am definitely an introvert, but I need to be an extrovert to teach, right? So I need to be out in the world doing podcasts, teaching seminars, doing dog training, all the things that I need to do. So I can be extroverted, but if I do too much of that, I need to balance it with my introvert time because I can get burnt out if I have too much public appearances or people are talking to me too much or what about my dog or, my, it's like, okay, for a little while and I want to be as gracious as possible, but you know what? Then I need to go and be quiet.
Yep. So, and I know people just like that, where if they're busy for a couple of days, they need a day of downtime, just, kind of watching TV, doing their own thing. What's the term for a blend between introvert and extrovert? I thought there was somebody had said that a couple of years ago, a term.
I'm not sure what that term, I haven't heard that one, but some people can, the goal is to be flexible because if you're too far on one extreme, too far on the other, it can be really imbalanced, not only for yourself, but for people around you. So the goal is to be able to recognize what your core, your fundamental nature is, and then to adjust as needed. So for example, you might need to occasionally have some solo time, you might need a little time out yourself, even though you're mostly okay with all the hustle and bustle and people talking to you and wanting something from you and telling you things, and it's all okay until it's not.
To be very honest with you, here we go.
Yeah.
I was, busy all weekend. I'm usually
Yeah.
doing something with somebody, and I was going to have dinner with an old friend tonight, and it wasn't working out time wise for both of us and everything. And he said, you have until 5 o'clock today. Because
Uh-huh.
then, he's not really doing anything. He was going to be busy until 6 to tell him whether we're going to meet or not. And he said,
Yeah.
no problem. Hit it up another day. I'm going to tell him no.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking I
Yeah.
just need some time. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful day out,
Yeah.
late afternoon, early evening. I think I'm just going to chill, read a book, and just maybe
Yeah.
go for a drive by the beach or whatever. I just need to have the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though
Well,
I
see,
don't
that's
want
it.
to, even
Yeah.
though I don't want to, um, I love doing things, with
Uh-huh.
others. I think
Yeah.
I need to.
Right, right. Well, that's really good sort of self-awareness, is to recognize most of the time you're going to say yes to that, let's go out and have, be with a friend. But
Yes.
every once in a while, depending upon, how full your barrel is, how much energy you've spent on the extrovert side, if you've been over expending for you. I don't mean, for me, it would be like way back, but for you, it would
Hmm.
be like, so to recognize that. And it's the same with our dogs. Dogs can be anywhere on the spectrum. Dogs can be very, very introverted, a little introverted, medium balanced, very extroverted, all the way, so it's the same thing. And why that's important is to be able to recognize, if we have, like in our therapy dog program, where we take dogs into the high school classroom, some of the most sensitive dogs are the introvert dogs. So these dogs are going to be very good at reading human emotions, at paying attention who's having a rough day and who needs a little extra cuddle. So we want to be able to include the introverts in our program,
Hmm.
but we have to pay attention, because those introverts, when they're absorbing energy from the kids, right, from the teens, right, so they are going to get at a point where they're done, and we have to pay attention to that. we
Hmm.
had we had this one senior greyhound in our program named Mochi, very, very sweet. And when Mochi looked at you, chose to look at you, she would melt you. I mean, it was like, just, she would just gaze into your eyes, because she's a sight hound, so they're used to looking at. I'm just watching my dog, because she's chewing on a bottle.
I just saw her walk by. So cute.
Okay. The other one is chewing, right? So if you hear some chewing noises, that's Lulu, our foster dog.
Hey,
But
maybe she's a little extrovert and wants to get on, some
yes,
screen
she
time. I
wants to
don't
be on
know.
the podcast.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, she might drop in. So those of you on video will be able to see it.
Sure.
So yeah. So anyway, Mochi. So she will melt you. I mean, like, whatever's bothering you, and she looks at you, and it's like over and done. You just melt right into her. But after about 20 minutes of this kind of deep gazing, and I don't mean 20 minutes with one person, but going around the room, she's done and she's ready to go home.
Wow.
And that's, and so we know that about Mochi. So we say to her handler, yeah, go ahead, go. Because there's no point in having Mochi get overamped. And so we pay a lot of attention, and each dog is different. Some dogs we only work for an hour with the dog, because we're a big believer in not having the dogs be tools of healing. We want it to be just as good for the dog as it is for the person. So we have pretty strict rules about an hour, but a lot of other programs don't have that. They'll go longer. And like when we go help Amazon, when they're having their seasonal chaos, we'll go and do some Amazon visits at the warehouse there. But they want 2.5 hours, and we're like, no. Can't
Wow.
do it. Can't do it. They're used to just like everybody, burning the candle both ends. So it's like, of course they think we can too, but we have to speak up for our dogs and say, no, just an hour, because like Sophia, my dog, she's great for an hour and then she's done. So she loves it. We pull up to school. She can't wait to jump out of that car, go see the kids. And then after an hour, she can't wait to go back to that car and get away from the kids, so it's just by understanding your own dog, you can make sure that other problems don't happen. Because when they get overstressed by, if an introverted dog has had too much social interaction with other dogs or other people, daycare center, whatever it is, they can get overstressed. But an extrovert dog can go a lot longer with having that. And in fact, extrovert dogs that don't get enough stimulation, they'll start doing some of those behaviors you don't want to see around the house. So
So we know why it's important. How do you truly determine what your dog is?
So by observation. So for example, an extrovert dog, they're going to thrive meeting new people and engaging with new people and having new contact. And they're like, oh, who's this new person? Who's this new person? You know, you're going to see from their behavior. Whereas an introvert is going to maybe have a slower warm up, you know, takes them a little longer to connect, or their interest in connecting is going to be shorter. So you're kind of watching their rhythm. And where this gets important is if you want to start doing some doggy play dates or take your dog to daycare or something like that, you want to make sure that they understand this and that they are pairing dogs. Like if you have a friend on the street who says, hey, you want to have a play date? You know, we got to make sure that chemistry is good. It's the same thing like with two humans. You can't just throw two humans together and assume it's going to be fine. You know what I mean? So it's the same with dogs. We need to pay attention to their temperament. So two introverts are going to just kind of like notice each other, just hang, not necessarily need to play and engage. Two extroverts, they're going to be bounding all over each other and playing and jumping up and down and having a good old time. And so we wouldn't want to necessarily put an extreme introvert with an extreme extrovert, because that extreme extrovert may not be good at reading those people's behavior. Now, are you hearing that bottle being crunched?
Hardly, a little bit. You know, it's much louder for you. I don't hear it that loud here.
All right. Okay.
Doggy's happy. That's okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I would say my dog is more of an extrovert, because when anybody ever comes over, he'll go running, he'll greet them. You know, he gets kind of excited. Sometimes he's, you know, let me check you out, but I'm happy.
Right.
And I've taken him to a dog park, and he'll run, you know, with others and play. But the first time I ever took him there, it was kind of funny. He gets up on the park bench and, you know, takes a stance and just goes, like basically saying, I'm here. This is who I am, guys. And then, you know, then he jumped off and he started playing with the others. So I guess he would be more of an extrovert.
That's more on the extrovert side. You know, I don't know how far, but I think that's really great, because then taking him and getting some stimulation from other dogs and other people is going to be good balancing for him. Now, you will find at a certain point he's had enough, and that's what you want to start watching for. So when he changes that rhythm, when he stops playing and maybe he's moving away from them rather than towards them, and he's moving towards you or towards the door or the place, those are signs that he's had enough. So it doesn't mean he doesn't want to come back tomorrow, you know, but it means that for his nervous system, that's enough for today. And that's why it's important for us humans to be watching those signals.
When it comes to an introverted dog who is feeling stress, what's your best suggestion to deal with that? Take him out of the situation?
Yes, take him out. Right. So that introvert in that doggy park, and they're not engaging and they're not moving towards the other dogs, they're moving away, and the dogs are moving towards him. You know, it's unequal. That's what we don't want to see. If we see a give and take, you know, Tanner moves towards another dog, the other dog moves towards Tanner, they go back and forth, that's very healthy. But when we see, like, let's say, for example, let's use Tanner. Like if Tanner was totally pursuing a dog who wasn't interested in Tanner, we would want to not have that other dog be subjected to that. So we have to sometimes intervene if it looks like it's, you know, imbalanced, because what could happen in those situations, if one or another dog gets stressed, that's when fights happen, bites happen, growls happen, because one or another dog is not paying attention to the cues of the other dog. Like Lulu, the dog we're fostering, she's a very poor dog body language reader. She's pretty good at reading people. Like, she knows if people are good or bad or happy or sad, or, you know, she's pretty tuned in. But with the other dogs, she just ignores their signals.
Wow.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating, but it's your experience literally with the human animal connection where you can spot this. You've seen it, you know, you know, when you see an animal, what they're going through at that moment. How about is it the same thing for an extrovert dog that is feeling stress? Remove them from the situation too.
Yeah, you know, if the dog is getting, we have a 10 scale, and 10 is like, you know, that's bad. That's a bite. Something bad's going to happen. A 1, like nothing is bothering them. So introverts and extroverts, they're all on, you know, have the same scale of energy. If you see an extrovert getting to an 8, 9, You want to change that situation. You want to remove it, because it's not even that Tanner is being an aggressor, but if Tanner's at an 8 or a 9, he could trigger another dog that's imbalanced,
Right.
and that other dog is going to start something. Because if dogs don't like dogs to be too imbalanced. They prefer harmony. Even the wolves, they want harmony in the pack. And if one dog, and one of the things what's happening is, like, sometimes Lulu will get too overamped. Our foster dog Lulu, very sweetheart, but she gets she turns into Godzilla when the doorbell rings, right? And Bailey, the other dog, will try to correct her because he doesn't want her getting that upset, and she's not listening. See, a more balanced dog would listen to Bailey's cue, saying, "Hey, slow down. This isn't the end of the world. You're being too intense." So healthy dogs are good at reading social cues, and dogs that have issues are not so good at it.
You bring up a great point. I know Tanner would never bite anybody. Never did, never would. I just know it. I fully trust him. You can bring a little kid up to him. He's not going to bite him. And if he ever did anything, it's just like a playful, and that's like, I don't even think he's ever done that. Maybe once. And he's not, he's basically kissing you. But what you said is so important, that animal like Tanner could trigger, if he's stressed,
right,
not going to bite anybody, but could trigger another animal to bite somebody.
Exactly. And that's, what we see sometimes when people aren't paying attention in dog parks is that one dog is a little bit overamped and another dog tries to correct them, and boom, you've got yourself a situation, and that's not good.
Wow.
So yeah.
I was wondering what to do in this situation.
Yeah.
People say I'm intuitive. I don't think I am, but I had a vision of another dog running up to my dog. This is 2 nights ago.
Wow.
And I was thinking about it, and I've got his leash, and we went outside. I don't know why that popped in my head. That never happens in the neighborhood. I'm walking him for about 5 minutes, and another dog comes running up to him.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was like, it was almost like a dream. Like, what do I do? Because I was thinking, what do I do if that happens? If that dog started biting Tanner, how would I react? To break him apart, use my foot to part, whatever. In those situations, and we talk about, the dog park, where it's getting a little tense between the two animals, they may be barking at each other, but they're wagging their tails, they're checking each other out. But if you're detecting, we have a problem here, what would you do?
You do. I mean, well, then, like you said, the low level problems, they're going to work it out themselves. So we don't interrupt what they can handle. What you want to watch is when one dog is not taking the correction, not responding to cues. So a dog charging you, was that other dog on a leash or not?
Let me think for a sec. His person was with him, but in the distance.
Right. Not attached.
No.
Yeah. So that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
The laws being what they are, I mean, dogs don't like leashes. They're not natural, but the fact is we live in a society with laws and rules. And so if a dog is off leash, that's a bad situation. That means that the owner is either not paying attention or has lost control or doesn't care, not paying attention. So that is not a good situation. So a small dog you would pick up in that situation. You would not want a dog. It's not friendly behavior for a dog to charge. Now, it's one thing for a dog to, kind of trot up, tail wagging and wiggly and going kind of sideways. That's okay. But a dog coming straight at you, especially with eye contact, especially with a hard stare, those are signs that something bad could happen. Or a freeze. If the dog freezes and just goes, like that frozen stare, that's a bad sign, because that's a warning. So there's Lulu walking by for those of you on video.
It's cute.
That big old sheep, though.
So cute. I love when they walk, when they kind of waddle. Yeah. Does that too. Yeah. So thank you for that. I mean, it's the the dog did come on very fast. I mean, before I can even turn my head, I'm like,
that's not right. That's not right. That's not healthy dog behavior.
Yeah.
That's a dog that has too much energy, not reading the cues, not respecting.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying necessarily it would have automatically been a bite, but that's a situation you want to immediately stop. So you want to pick up your dog or turn the other direction, or not turn away from it because you got to be able to watch it, but you want to intervene in a situation like that. So that's not a good sign. And it's really interesting that you say you're not intuitive, because you are intuitive.
I think we all are. I just,
Yeah.
I could have been just a coincidence, but I literally was thinking it. And
I
it
don't
was
think it's a coincidence. I mean, it's like, how often do you think about dogs coming after your dog like that?
never.
Okay, so there you go.
It was and the whole baseline for the thought that popped in my head was, what would you do if
Right.
this happened and the dog was aggressive? How
Right.
would I? Because I have this little, silly technique when we have geese around here,
Mm.
and sometimes they can be, stay away from them, but
Yeah.
sometimes Canadian geese.
Yeah.
All I'll do is I just take my foot and I put it up like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think to them,
Yeah.
it's intimidating, so they usually back off for
Yeah.
a second. I'm not
Right.
no harm whatsoever.
Right.
Just,
Right.
show them that
Body language. Yeah. That's
yeah,
something that they understand. It's respectful. I mean, they do that with each other. They give each other body language. I mean, we can't always see what they're saying, but they're doing that all the time. They're letting you know how close you should get, or if you're too close. They're always signaling that. And a dog that's charging, even if that dog didn't have an aggressive intention, is not a dog that's balanced and sensitive to other dogs, because you don't charge that way unless you've got too much energy in the equation. So it's not appropriate. So that would be a warning sign that you would take very seriously. It doesn't mean that there's going to be a problem, but what it means that you want to avoid one, because the easiest way to handle that situation is to prevent it. It's so much harder if the situation escalates and there's contact. Yeah. And how big is Tanner?
He's about 20 pounds, 21.
Yeah. And how big was the other dog?
I would say a little bit bigger, not by much.
Okay.
Same
Yeah.
territory.
Well, yeah. So, but it's still, it's not respectful dog behavior to charge like that. So, it doesn't mean necessarily that it would be a terrible situation, but it means that you need to be on guard.
Yes.
So you need to take the defensive action, like with the geese, with the foot, and you can do that. You can bring your arms out like that and say, stop, or that's like what we do with the horses, we make ourselves as big as possible, or you can say, stop. And if the dog does not respond, now you really know you need to have that dog in your arms. You're a dog in your arms. Yeah. So,
and that's what I did actually. I made a loud noise, just like,
that's it.
Hey, but way louder.
Right.
And did it 2 times. The dog really wasn't responding. So that was like,
that's a bad sign.
That's a bad sign. And I was at that point where I was like, what do we do now? And how is this going to go? And then I saw, the dog's person come closer, and he was like, oh, come here, whatever dog's name is. I didn't say anything to him. He just kind of, took the dog and they just went down the hill or whatever. The fact that he didn't even make contact with me, like, he's friendly. Yeah.
Forget that.
He's not really mindful of what he's got going on there with the dog.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what they say. Oh, he's friendly. What did everybody say? Well, don't listen to that. You're watching the dog behavior. He didn't listen to your cue. He didn't hear your words, he didn't respond, and the human was not connected to him and isn't tuned in. So the fact that the human is that clueless about that behavior and didn't even say to you, sorry, I wasn't paying attention or whatever. I mean, things happen, but if the human's not attending and the dog's not attending, you got yourself a potentially dangerous situation.
And that's what I was feeling at that moment. And I know, if anybody comes up to my dog, I get what you're saying. They can say that they're friendly and they're not going to bite. I know mine's not going to. This guy didn't even say that. He didn't even say hi. He didn't say, hey, what's up? How's it going? Nothing. He just came walking by, come here, Poopsie. And then whatever. And the dog went and followed him down the hill without a leash. But I mean, it starts with the parents.
It does. It exactly does. So you have that situation. The parents are clueless and the dog is clueless, and they're not paying attention to the dog. So the dog's used to not paying attention to them because there's no communication going on, and it goes back. And that's a dangerous situation when a dog is not attending to their human and the human is not attending to the dog. That's a setup for a problem. So very good for you for having that premonition or dream. I don't remember if you said it was a premonition or a dream, but whatever it was good guidance from your, inner self. Yeah.
It was just a thought that popped in, like just before I took him out.
Wow.
And there's never dogs like that in the neighborhood that just run up to you. They're on a leash, and then you kind of feel each other out as you're walking down the street. And Tanner sometimes is friendly, and then sometimes he starts barking. Like he's not feeling it. He's not feeling it.
Exactly.
I don't know
Yeah.
why, but
Yeah.
I know the difference when he's like, "Roar."
Right. Right.
Doesn't happen often, but there's something that he's not feeling with the other animal. Um, I guess you just respect that. I don't.
You absolutely respect that. Yeah. So
Hmm.
I don't know if I told you the story, but once at the shelter in a training session, we were having a training, and it was a group, Dogs Playing for Life, which is a wonderful group that teaches how to have safe play groups by recognizing the dogs at different play styles. So for training purposes, they were going to bring in a dog which was deemed unsafe. I mean, this was a dog that could only be walked by staff, so never, hardly ever got out and didn't have good socialization skills and had to come in with a muzzle just for safety, right?
Hmm.
So the other three dogs that were there in the yard already were very good social dogs, what we call helper dogs. They don't react, they correct when they need to, they don't get their feelings hurt. These are a special kind of dog. Most dogs are not these like, Red Cross workers, whatever. So
Gotcha.
the three dogs that were in the yard took three positions, three corners. They all laid down facing the gate entrance where the troubled dog was going to come in, and they just watched. So they were low and crouched, which means we're not going to have a fight. We're here to make peace, but they were vigilant. They were watching, and that told us this is an unbalanced. I mean, we knew it already, but the dogs were telling us this is an unbalanced dog coming in. We're willing to have him come in. We're not going to go rush the gate and start a fight, because these were good dogs that were just watching. But to see their vigilance was so fascinating. And so the dog came in, and I think came in with the muzzle, and he was a little crazy at first, got a correction from the person, and then he was fine. And 10 minutes later, they were able to take the muzzle off because the dog learned. And that's what makes the difference, is can the dog learn? So this was beautiful to
Hmm.
watch, a dog that had been deemed unsafe, all this other stuff for good reason, not for no reason. But it just shows the potential for growth when you know what you're doing. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, that would have been a bad situation, right? If he had come in without the muzzle and he did the charge and all that. But the other dogs knew that he was worth it, that he should have a chance. And 10 minutes
Oh,
later, they were all playing. So the dogs
wow.
gave him the chance. The dogs said, because
Wow.
we were watching the dogs to see if the dogs weren't okay, we wouldn't have brought him in. But
That's
the
so
dogs,
cool.
yeah, isn't it?
Wow. And what would you do in a situation where you have a shy dog, just very introverted,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to socialize them, with
Mm-hmm.
other dogs? What's the process there?
Yeah, so the first thing is to pay attention. We don't want to have a dog that's not good at reading body language with a shy dog. So we want to have a dog that's respectful of it. So like these dogs, they could see that the dog had issues, but they were willing to give a chance. So we need a good dog that's a good dog reader, a kind, and preferably not too energetic, right? We want, maybe a balanced dog or older dog, wiser dog. It's not so much the age, it's the balance of energy. So we want to do that. And what we want to do is make sure that they meet each other. I'll tell you the ideal situation. Every situation is not ideal, but so you can vary it. But the most ideal would be that there's a barrier between, like a fence, so they can see each other, smell each other, but have no contact. If that is waggy and smooth, the tails are wagging, the body language is curvy, they're not barking or growling, they're
Huh.
kind of curious and sniffing, they're going nose first with each other, and their body motions are soft, then we can put them in the same area. So
Wow.
let's say we could put them in a yard or some other area. And if that goes well too, and they're either ignoring each other, which is not a terrible thing, or they're pleasantly interested, meaning not too interested. They're not humping, they're not pursuing, they're not chasing, but they're just like, okay, you're here, I'm here, let's play, or let's just walk together, or let's ignore each other, is all good stuff.
Hmm.
And so then we want to see, like, then we can come into a house, we can come into a room, and we want to just make sure that there's an escape, because dogs sense when there's no escape, they get a little bit more triggered. So we want to make sure that there's a door open, that they can leave, that the shy one can leave if needed. And then we're just going to watch, and then we want to get very calm ourselves, because remember, they're going to take their cues from us. They're going to be watching us to say, is this safe or not? And if we're going, oh my God, there's something bad's going, they're going to feel that, right? So, but if we're like, okay, here you are, let's just be together and just watch and just see how they do. And they might ignore each other, which is just fine, because that's respectful, or they might engage in play.
Wow. Learned
Yeah.
a lot today.
Oh, good, good.
The extrovert introvert thing, is reasonable. People
Uh-huh.
are. Imagine the animals would be. We're out of time. They're gonna.
Oh, we
they're gonna-
are?
Yeah, they're gonna start barking at me.
Oh, okay.
So, how do we learn more about you and the organization?
So our website is thehumananimalconnection.org, and you can see we have a book. The book is on audio tape, so lots and lots of blogs. You can book a consultation. So thehumananimalconnection.org, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and it's a nonprofit, and you help make that connection all the time with great advice and helping people every day. Genie, thank you for being with us. Just so fascinating to learn this stuff. Can't wait to get together with you again.
Yeah.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.